Okay, we're talking about food webs and relationships in Bundle 7 Ecology. Before we get started, I want to remind you these notes should go on page 77 of your notebook. And make sure when you're taking your notes, you have your keywords, your vocabulary words, either in bold or highlighted or in color. Somehow they stand out. Also, make sure you skip lines after each important word. That might be after a slide, or maybe after an important vocabulary word to keep your notes organized. Make sure your pictures, if you draw a picture, it's in color and it's labeled. Okay, let's go ahead and start. So ecosystems. An ecosystem is an environment that consists of both living, which is biotic, and non-living, abiotic factors. Make sure you know biotic and abiotic. Of course, there's different types of ecosystems. You can see right here that ecosystem right here is not underlined or in bold or highlighted, but that's because I want to give you the opportunity to do that yourself. I don't want to just have everything done for you. So make sure that when you see something, you recognize that ecosystem is the key word here. Okay. The picture here you see is a marine ecosystem. I think you know by now that a marine ecosystem includes the world's oceans. It's the salt water. It is the biggest ecosystem in the world, or biome, because most of the world is covered by salt water. Okay, a freshwater ecosystem would consist of fresh water, like rivers, lakes, and streams. This picture here you can see has a pond with some animals that live in the freshwater ecosystem. The last major part ecosystem is terrestrial, which is obviously found on land. There's different types of terrestrial ecosystems: desert, rainforest, grassland, tundra, taiga, and deciduous forest. Remember, desert is hot, dry. Rainforest is wet. It rains a lot. Grassland, you have very few trees. I think most of these you're aware of. Tundra, where it's mostly cold, like the North Pole and South Pole. Deciduous forest is where you have all the trees. That's up in northeast Texas. Okay. When we discuss ecosystems, the sun basically is what drives our ecosystems. The sun is the original source of energy for life on Earth. What that means is that life began because of the sun. The sun is what gives plants energy to make their food, and those plants give animals the energy when they eat the plants. The sun's energy is transferred to plants to animals through the food chain. So the food chain starts with the sun. Not with plants, but with the sun. Okay. Producer autotroph. You'll hear the word producer a lot. We're going to start transitioning to the word autotroph. Okay, autotroph, same thing. It's a plant. It's an organism that makes its own food. So we know plants are called producers, and we know that they make their own food. The process is called photosynthesis, which is important. Plants use energy from the sun, carbon dioxide, and water to make glucose, otherwise known as sugar. Okay, that's the process that plants make their own food. So remember, when you hear the word autotroph, those are plants. Okay, auto is a prefix that means self. Troph has to do with food, so they make food themselves. Okay, consumer heterotroph. So hetero means difference. Again, troph has to do with food, so they get their food from something else. Obviously, we know animals cannot make their own food. We are classified as animals, so we cannot make our own food like plants. We have to go get it from plants or from animals. Herbivores are animals that eat only plants. Carnivores, animals that eat only meat. If we keep going, omnivores, animals that eat both plants and meat. Decomposers are the organisms that break down dead plants to animals. And scavengers are the animals that feed on dead animals and plant materials. So buzzards, hyenas, those animals that come along when something's already been dead for a while, those are called scavengers. Okay. Now you're going to notice that every vocabulary word here, like decomposers and scavengers, does not have a picture. So that does not mean that you should not draw a picture by each vocabulary word. Okay. I would like for you to get in the habit of drawing a lot of pictures, not just copying down the pictures that I have. For example, scavenger, you could draw a buzzard. Okay. But I'm not telling you every single word needs to have a picture to it. But I would suggest most of them, okay? Like me, most of you are visual learners, and pictures really help you to learn your vocabulary. Okay, moving on here to food chain and food webs. I think most of y'all know food chains show the energy flow of the sun to plants to animals, okay? As we'll discuss this week and next week a little bit, you usually start with the sun and then the producers, and then you go to the consumers. And there's primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. So it moves up the food chain. Food webs, that's just a bunch of food chains intermixed right here. So if this right here, from the grass to the mouse to the bird to the wedge-tailed eagle, that was a food chain. This food web has a bunch of food chains that are mixed together. I think most of y'all know, just to review, arrows represent the flow of energy. Okay? Okay, energy pyramid. Energy pyramid is another way to express food webs and food chains. It shows the trophic levels, or the positions that organisms occupy in a food chain. Here's the producers. Here's the primary consumer, secondary. If we had a bigger energy pyramid, you have a tertiary here, which means third level. Okay. I want you to notice right here, you have 100%. This means that grass or plants, producers, autotrophs, they get 100% of the energy from the sun. But as you move up, only 10% moves up the energy pyramid. So zebras would only get 10% of the energy from the grass. Okay, the lions, when they eat the zebras, they only get 10% of the zebra's energy. Okay, so right here, this 1%, this lion only basically gets 1% of the grass's energy. Okay, because 10% of 10% is 1%. So, okay, down here at the bottom, only about 10% of the energy from one trophic level makes it to the next level. So on a test, if you see a question that says what percent moves up each level, the answer is 10%. Okay, symbiotic relationships. The word symbiosis means relationship between two species or two organisms. There's different types of symbiosis that you need to be aware of. Mutualism is where a relationship benefits both species. We'll go through some examples in class this week, but if you have two organisms that help each other out, that's called mutualism. Okay, so if I see right here, looks like these two organisms have their arms, I guess, in a hug or, helping each other. That's mutualism. Commensalism occurs when one organism benefits and the other is not harmed. So if one organism benefits and one is like, it doesn't really affect them, that's called commensalism. Okay? So right here, this guy's benefiting and this guy's like, whatever. Nothing's really happening. Nothing good, nothing bad. It's like, he doesn't even notice. Okay? The interesting one here is called parasitism. You see that word parasite there. So parasitism occurs when one species benefits while the other is harmed. The picture here of a mosquito biting a human. When mosquitoes bite us, they take our blood, and so mosquito is a parasite. That's a good example of parasitism. Okay, we're harmed. We're not going to die, but we are going to, have a mosquito bite. It's going to cause us some issues with swelling, and it's going to, be annoying to have that itching feeling on your skin. And of course, sometimes if you get enough mosquito bites, you could get sick. They do carry diseases. Okay, and the last one here is called predation. Predation occurs when one organism kills another organism, like the word predator. Okay, the big difference between these two things: parasitism, one species is harmed, but they're not really killed. Okay, mosquitoes mostly don't kill us; they just hurt us a little bit. Okay. Predation is when a predator attacks a prey and kills it for food. So predation does result in an organism dying. Okay, so make sure you're aware of those. These are all the notes for this week. I just want to remind you when you're doing this to write your notes down, and then tomorrow go back over your notes, and that's when you write your questions and your summary. 4 questions on the side of the page, the left side of the page, the left margin, and then you're going to write your summary. Your summary should be about 4 or 5 good sentences at the bottom. And you might need an anchor page, okay? So make sure you take your time and you write your notes. On Fridays when I check your notes, okay? So make sure you have all your notes done correctly, okay? If you have any questions, email me, or I'll see you at school.